It is late autumn in Alaska, and the moose season is nearing its end. In the town of Tanana, some hunters have been very successful, while others have caught nothing. Joey, a hunter who has earned the respect of many through his efforts, now finds himself with only 2 days left in the moose season and has yet to even see a moose. His family is waiting for him to bring home moose meat to sustain them through the tough winter ahead. With little time left, hunting is largely a matter of luck. Even the most skilled hunters can't succeed if they don't encounter any game. Before heading to the quiet lake hunting grounds upstream, Joey needs to borrow something from James, who had little luck fishing this season and is also in dire need of hunting a moose. Joey is there to borrow his canoe, which James agrees to lend readily. James also suggests his eldest son, Sith, as a helper for Joey. Sith is just 14 years old and has never hunted large game before, but accompanying Joey could be a valuable learning experience. If they are successful, James is likely to receive some of the moose meat in return. Joey, who once learned hunting from James, readily agrees to these terms as it benefits both parties, and hunting large game, like moose, is easier with help. After Joey and his son leave, James also sets out to hunt, as failing to do so could mean starvation for his family when winter arrives. By splitting up, they theoretically double their chances of success. Joey and Sith travel 25 kilometers south by boat to Quiet Lake, a region with dense forests and lakes favored by moose. Tracking moose is challenging, and after 5 hours, the young hunters still have nothing. To increase their hunting range, Joey sends Sith to try his luck on land. Though young, Sith, who grew up in the wilderness, is already shouldering the responsibility of providing for his family. He reaches a clearing with a good view and spots some movement in the distance. Without binoculars, he can't see clearly, so he quickly runs back to call Joey. Equipped, they return, and Joey, using a scope, confirms they are indeed moose. But unfortunately, it is a mother and her calf. Law only allows the hunting of male moose to protect females for breeding. The simplest way to identify a male is by its antlers. Even a single antler means the hunt is legal. Disappointed, the young hunters realize they have encountered a type they cannot legally hunt. Moose season in Tanana Town has just 1 day left. If Joey and Sith don't find a bull moose today, they will end up with nothing. This means their families will have no red meat for the winter. To save time, they stayed overnight in the forest. In the morning, the rising sun woke the sleeping hunters. The 2 young men got up early to search for moose nearby but found no valuable clues. Now they plan to canoe to a nearby lake in hopes of better luck. The meat spoils quickly this season, so they avoid hunting deep in the forest where transporting the meat out could lead to spoilage. Crossing the lake, they reached a marsh where they finally found moose tracks. Joey analyzed the prints and confirmed they were left by a male. Feeling hopeful, they followed the tracks to a small grove. They noticed pits in the ground. Male moose dig these pits, urinate in them, and roll in the urine to coat themselves, attracting females with the scent. Nearby trees were also scraped by the antlers of a rutting bull. These signs were about 4 to 5 days old. Based on Joey's experience, the bull would likely return. The hunters decided to wait by the pit, but had no success by evening. Wolf howls in the distance were a bad sign, indicating a pack nearby, which meant the moose were probably long gone. Joey and Sith's hunting mission was a total failure. This was the first time Joey had not bagged a moose since adulthood. It wasn't a lack of skill, but rather bad luck. Fortunately, his father had caught some king salmon earlier, so they wouldn't go hungry immediately. However, without red meat and fat, the cold winter would be tough. After moose season ends, caribou season will start soon. If Joey doesn't succeed then, this winter could be particularly hard for his family. Sith's family seems even worse off, as his father caught no fish. What will they do? Moose season has only 2 days left. James entrusted his son to Joey as a shooter. However, he could not let his 14-year-old son Sith bear the responsibility of feeding the family alone. So, on the second day, he teamed up with his hunting partner Raph to hunt moose as well. This way, the father and son's chances of success would double. Searching for moose is a big challenge for hunters. Without good luck, they might not even get a chance to see one. According to James's experience, creeks, lakesides, and marshes are the places where moose are most likely to be found. They will focus their search in these areas. Moose do not stay in fixed locations, so hunters can only determine a general area. Once there, they will mimic the calls of moose to attract them. Most hunters use their mouths to imitate the calls of female moose to attract males in heat. James, however, is different. He made a whistle to mimic the call of a male moose using a plastic coffee can and a string. He drilled a small hole in the bottom of the can. After soaking the string, pulling it through the hole creates a sound similar to that of a male moose. This sound allows James to get closer to the prey. After practicing the call, they will leave for a while and then return. If a moose responds, the hunters are likely to catch it. After trying several places without seeing any moose, James and Raph did not give up and continued searching for their prey. Although we live in a civilized society and they struggle in the wilderness, the responsibilities we bear are the same. We work to earn money to support our families. They hunt in the wilderness to do the same. It is not easy for either of us. Many people long for life in the wilderness, probably because dealing with nature is easier than dealing with people. After all, human hearts are the most elusive things in the world. 2 hours later, they returned to the spot where they had blown the whistle to see if any moose had been attracted. This hunt was crucial for James. One year, his family nearly starved when they failed to catch a moose. Just then, across the lake, a moose finally appeared. A male. However, they were too far away to shoot. They needed to quietly move to the other side to close the distance. Once within 300 yards, James took his chance and fired. The shot was accurate, hitting the target, but the moose did not fall. It got up and fled. This indicated the shot wasn't fatal. Following its tracks, James and Raph quickly caught up and delivered a final shot. After much effort, they successfully killed the male moose, securing food for the family for the winter. The father and son split up to search with their partners, proving it a reliable method. For hunter Stan, dog sledding is an essential mode of transport in winter. During the fur season, the dogs would pull the sled, taking him to trap prey. Stan did not participate in the late autumn moose season, as there were more pressing matters at home, like gathering firewood for heating, a crucial material for winter survival. Caitlin, studying in Fairbanks, knew her father's hardships. Whenever she could, she would rush home to help, doubling Stan's work efficiency. Each year, Stan prepares early for the fur season. His sled dog team, consisting of Alaskan Malamutes and Huskies, is led by a specially trained lead dog that controls the speed and direction, vital for the sled-driving hunter. Stan has 2 old dogs, aged 12, and plans to replace them with 2 younger ones. Among the candidates, a white puppy named Card shows great promise as a future lead dog. But as Stan was feeding the dogs, he shockingly discovered a tumor on Card's belly, a devastating blow. Tanana has over 200 residents, but no doctor, not even a vet. To treat a sick dog, one must travel over 240 kilometers to Fairbanks. Without treatment, Card would not survive the winter. Stan, who loves dogs dearly, would not ignore the situation. Although there is no doctor in town, there is a physician assistant, Johan, who occasionally visits from Fairbanks. Stan quickly contacted him. However, Johan is a physician for humans, not a vet, but he agreed to try and help to see what could be done. If Card had a serious illness, it might need to be euthanized. After Johan's examination, it was found that Card had mastitis that had turned into an abscess, which could lead to sepsis and death. They had to perform surgery on Card before dinner to remove the abscess. With no surgery room in town, they used Johan's kitchen. Johan, though not a vet, had some experience in this area. The severe mastitis required the removal of the entire affected area, the only way to save Card. Despite their best efforts, there was a chance Card wouldn't survive the surgery. Fortunately, Under Johan's care, Card miraculously pulled through. The surgery was successful, and the abscess was removed. For safety, Card had to stay there for a day under Johan's observation to prevent complications. While waiting to pick up Card, Stan decided to train his sled dog team. Without snow, they couldn't use the sled, so he used an old car as a load for the dogs to pull. The dogs, having not pulled for a while, were clearly not as fit as before and needed more training. As evening approached, it was time to bring Card home. The dog was much better after the surgery. Stan and Johan had saved its life, but whether Card could lead the sled team again was uncertain. This house cost $1,000 and was purchased by Hunter Joey in the spring. Now that winter has arrived, the house must be repaired soon, or it won't withstand the harsh Alaskan winter. Stan, Joey's father, is helping him with the repairs and teaching him some house repair skills. Many parts of the house need fixing, such as the windows and the small cracks inside. Ideally, these repairs should have been done in summer. It's not wise to wait until now, as the ground is already frozen, making even small digging tasks difficult. Joey is currently working on the entrance stairs. Although rough, they are functional. With winter temperatures dropping to 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, installing a heating stove is crucial. Installing a wood stove requires caution, especially around the chimney, as poor insulation can lead to a fire hazard. When Stan first arrived in Alaska, he built a small cabin in a remote area and lived there for 11 years. As a father, he is passing on all his skills to his son to spare him the hardships he endured. People who have used wood stoves know that chimneys can get very hot, posing a significant risk to wooden roofs. Stan first secured a thick iron pipe to the roof and ran the stove's chimney through it, evenly lining it with fireproof material to effectively isolate the chimney's heat from the wooden roof. Now, the stove can be lit to test the temperature. Joey is now realizing how dependent he is on his father for getting things done. The cabin is finally habitable. With the stove, it feels like a warm home. According to town tradition, moving in requires a ceremony to bless the house. Tonight, most of the family will attend the blessing ceremony. Joey's grandmother, a pastor, will conduct the ceremony blending native traditions with Christianity. As the family gathers, the ceremony begins. Joey's grandmother holds a cup of water, sprinkling it throughout every room and corner of the house while reciting blessings, wishing the homeowner sweet dreams in the bedroom, and thanking God for food in the kitchen. Blessings are always welcome. What do you do when you move into a new home? In Tanana, Alaska, hunters inherit trapping lines from their ancestors. If these lines are not used for over 2 years, they can be claimed by other hunters. This year, according to fur experts, the price of mink could reach $160, the highest in 20 years. Hunter Charlie inherited a nearly 20-kilometer trapping line from his stepfather Ted. To signify ownership, Charlie had his son Bob clear it during fishing season. However, Bob, being young, only cleared part of it, leaving it vulnerable. Now, at the end of moose season, Charlie urgently needs to hunt a moose to sustain him through the winter. Concerned about losing his trapping line, he decides to check it before hunting. To his dismay, he finds recent signs of someone clearing it, suggesting the intruder could be ahead. Unwilling to tolerate this, Charlie prepares to confront the intruder at any cost. Rushing forward on his motorcycle, he is ready for a confrontation. The intruder, still clearing bushes with a chainsaw, turns out to be his son Bob, who had returned to finish the job to make amends without telling his father. Relieved, Charlie is pleased to find no one was stealing the line and that Bob was correcting his mistake. With the line now clear, father and son set out to hunt a moose together. Moose prefer watery areas, so boating is the best hunting approach. In shallow lakes and marshes inaccessible by motorboat, they canoe. Reaching Charlie's secret hunting spot, hard to access and rarely visited, increases their chances of finding game. Alaska has about 200,000 moose, but tracking them is challenging due to their keen senses. Hunters must master tracking skills to follow moose trails effectively. Charlie found signs of a bull moose in the nearby woods. Trampled dead trees, gnawed berries, and shrubs and almost stripped leaves, along with branches freshly damaged by antlers. Charlie tapped a small tree with a stick to mimic the sound of a moose rubbing its antlers against a tree during mating season, hoping to attract it. The sound had to be quiet, otherwise the moose might think it was facing a strong rival and flee. They tapped for a long time, but saw no sign of their prey. By the second day, with less than 12 hours left in moose season, they got up early and began tracking intensively. On their way to a marsh, they found fresh moose tracks, which delighted them. They quickly followed the tracks and found a bull moose, which Bob shot first, impressing Charlie. The catch was not large, but sufficient to feed their family for a third of the winter. To get through the entire winter, they needed to plan for more food. Yesterday, it was still autumn here. Today, large ice floes floated in the river. This is Tanana, Alaska, during the seasonal transition, as the residents prepare for a harsh winter. Hunter Stan was busy pulling his boat from the Yukon River, as once the river froze, any boats left might be ruined. He noticed his son Joey hadn't pulled his boat in, which annoyed him. Stan worried Joey couldn't handle his first winter alone. Meanwhile, young hunter Joey, after a failed moose season, hoped to redeem himself during the current caribou season. Joey thought winter was not arriving soon and preferred hunting for caribou in the mountains over pulling boats. The family had no red meat for the winter. Stan warned that a damaged engine from a frozen boat could cost more than a caribou. Father and son disagreed and parted on bad terms. Joey ignored his father's advice and insisted on hunting for a North American caribou in the mountains. He packed his gear and headed deep into the forest. During the summer, caribou graze heavily, and by now, they have stored enough fat to survive the long winter. If successful, Joey could secure about 90 pounds of meat, enough to last 2 months. However, with winter approaching, caribou migrate to other areas, making them hard to find. After 3 hours of searching at the mountain summit, Joey found nothing. At that moment, the first winter storm was brewing, likely to hit soon. As he crossed a ridge, he was surprised to see higher elevations already beginning to freeze, an unusually quick change. Joey remembered his father's words, realizing they were true. He hurried back to pull his boat from the Yukon River. By the time he returned to Tanana the next day, ice floes had already formed on the river, and the boat's motor was frozen. He now had to quickly pull it ashore. Some might wonder why his father, Stan, didn't help him pull the boat. Stan had his hands full and wanted to teach his son a lesson, showing love, but not overly so. By now, ice had built up under the boat, making it much heavier. The all-terrain vehicle struggled with reduced power and slippery tires on snow, leaving Joey unable to deal with the boat in the water. Embarrassed by his prior defiance, he felt unable to ask his father for help. Just then, Stan drove up in his truck to help, deeply touching Joey. Meanwhile, hunter Joey had set this year's first wolf trap in Thunderbird Valley, north of Tanana, where his father, Stan, had also arrived by dog sled. Although both were hunting to earn money, their targets were different. Joey preferred large gray wolves, while Stan opted for minks, which could sell for about $100 each, maybe more this year. Catching smaller prey like minks was less dangerous, and with enough caught, it could be just as lucrative. The bait used for mink traps was chum salmon, placed at the end of a sloped stick with traps set around it to increase the chances of capture. As Joey arrived where the traps were set, their hunting paths crossed. Stan still urged his son to maintain his motorcycle, warning it could break down any moment. Once again, Joey did not listen, continuing to learn the hard way. After meeting here, the father and son parted ways again until evening. Joey had set a total of 6 large traps. On his way home, he could check all of today's traps. As expected, he caught nothing today. Although this result was reasonable, it surprised him. With no other choice, he had to return home and come back after a couple of days, hoping for a surprise then. Just at that moment, the worst happened. His snowmobile suddenly wouldn't start. With 2 hours left until sunset, the nighttime temperature could drop to 45 degrees C, cold enough to be lethal. He was about 60 miles from town, and walking back could lead to hypothermia once he started sweating. At this point, Joey deeply regretted not maintaining it the day before. If he had only listened to his father's advice today, he wouldn't have faced this risk. But regret was useless now. He had to find a way to fix the snowmobile. He first changed the spark plug, but it didn't work. Then, he noticed that the wires inside the high-voltage cable could no longer connect with the spark plug. Joey cut some of the cable with a knife to expose more wire, but it made things worse. The cable was still not reaching the spark plug, and now it was too short. What was he to do? Was he really going to freeze to death here? Today, Hunter Joey had set out to lay wolf traps, and his old snowmobile broke down in the wilderness. If he couldn't fix it in time, he might freeze to death. He had found the problem to be with the high-voltage cable. To lead the high voltage to the spark plug, Joey used a piece of wire. He inserted one end of the wire into the high-voltage cable and twisted the other end onto the spark plug. After several attempts, the snowmobile finally started. It was a stroke of luck amidst misfortune. Joey now needed to hurry home without any delay. Although it wasn't a good start, it was at least without mishap. The next day, the trapping season was still in full swing, but because of the repair needed on Joey's snowmobile, Stan's progress was delayed, wasting valuable time. The trapping season is critical for the people of Tanana, as they usually work hard just to survive. The only time they can make money is now. If they don't earn money this season, they might have to take out loans and end up working for capitalists. A daunting thought. Therefore, it's easy to guess how anxious Stan currently is. The fault in the snowmobile was in the carburetor, which had water inside, blocking the fuel path. Once cleaned, the snowmobile could function normally again. As a return, Joey must catch more fur this season. Most father-son duos are similar to these two. They may have some friction at times, but ultimately, they help each other and look out for one another. Stan fixed Joey's motorcycle again and ventured into the wilderness to set traps. His dogs, far more reliable than snowmobiles, have been his most dependable partners. Over 40 years of tough survival in remote Alaska, Stan has relied heavily on these sled dogs. As the team leader, he guides them bravely forward through the snow, running being their natural instinct. Under normal conditions, they can cover over 60 kilometers a day. Suddenly, the sled team stopped because one of the dogs fell, appearing to have a seizure. Stan quickly removed it from the team. Although the situation looked bad, he remained calm. Having dealt with this before, the dog was not in life-threatening danger and would recover after a rest. Placing it in the sled, Stan resumed his journey. Trapping is a tough job in this environment. Currently, all hunters are setting traps. Whether they will catch anything depends on fate. As winter begins in Alaska, temperatures have dropped to minus 26 degrees Celsius. The trapping season in Tanana has started, and fur is the main source of income for locals, funding their purchases. Stan, a trapping expert, is now poised to excel. In 4 weeks, the region will enter a period of polar night, during which animals will hide and remain inactive, making trapping nearly impossible. Hunters must cherish these 4 weeks to maximize their income. Earning money through trapping is extremely difficult and risky, not to mention the challenges posed by temperatures as low as minus 60 degrees Celsius. Although Tanana is in a desolate wilderness, expenses like gasoline, traps, and equipment, which cannot be sourced locally, must be purchased. Stan's son, Joey, has been facing life's challenges on his own since living apart from his father. This hunting season, he must carve out his own trapping routes, crucial for his future survival. Snowmobiles are essential here, but his old vehicle is falling apart. He needs to earn enough this season to afford a new one. Before leaving town, Joey went to get trapping tools from his father, Stan. The start of the season has reignited friction between father and son over trapping. Joey decided to ride the old motorcycle into the harsh wilderness. Stan advised him to service it first for safety, but Joey, eager to save time, ignored his father's advice, grabbed the traps, and sped away. Stan didn't waste any time. He immediately started packing his gear and preparing the sled dogs. Although dog sleds are less efficient than snowmobiles, they are more reliable. If a dog gets injured or sick on the road, it can be removed and placed in the sled while the rest of the team continues to run. Snowmobiles, by contrast, can't move at all once they break down. Stan and his son were set to head over 30 kilometers north to Thunderbird Valley near Tanana to set traps. Joey, having set out earlier, had already reached the destination. Like last year, he was keen to catch a large gray wolf, a valuable target. More than the money, Joey valued the respect he gained in town from such a catch. Therefore, his first trap of the year was set for a gray wolf. To increase his chances, he planned to set both a lasso trap and a wolf catcher on the same trail. Gray wolves are strong, and in such open spaces, a trap can easily be dragged away. To prevent this, Joey cut down a small tree to add weight to the trap. The bait and wolf catcher were buried in the snow, ready to catch a wolf when it came looking for food. Even if the wolf catcher failed, the lasso trap would still be waiting. A marten could be sold for $150, and hunter Joey was busy setting traps for them. Life has been particularly tough for the hunters of Tanana this year. Winter had started some time ago, but there was embarrassingly little snowfall. In previous years, there would have been at least a meter of snow by now. But this year, some roads still showed gravel. These conditions were problematic not only for dog sleds, which couldn't run properly, but also for snowmobiles, which were easily damaged. Moreover, without snow, animals couldn't leave tracks, greatly hindering trapping efforts. Since becoming independent, Joey had blazed his own hunting trail. A few days ago, he set some large traps in Thunderbird Valley north of the town. Today, he needed to traverse the rugged mountain paths to check these traps, and later, he would report back to the town on the conditions in the wilderness. The outlook was not optimistic. The traps he had previously set were empty, with no animals even touching the bait. Disheartened by the poor results and the difficult journey, Joey decided not to return disappointed again. While checking the traps, he collected the animal traps and hurried back to bring the news to the townspeople. In Tanana, Stan and Charlie are anxiously waiting for Joey's report. The village has no radio, and all news is spread by word of mouth. Joey brings back bad news. There is no snow, the roads are impassable, and he cannot find any tracks of prey. The hunters may have to take a break and wait for snow before they can set out again. However, Joey cannot afford to stop. It's his first year facing life on his own, and he has bills waiting to be paid. Without a way to make a living, the townspeople won't respect him as an adult. His house is on the edge of town, backing onto wilderness that can be hunted. Since the snowmobiles are unusable, he decides to walk into the forest behind his house and set dozens of traps. At this point, he's not just focused on catching a large gray wolf. If he can make money, even catching small martens is good. He finds his friend Raph and heads deep into the forest to explore the unknown wilderness. Having a companion increases safety. Soon after entering the forest, Raph spots marten tracks, an encouraging sign. Joey quickly cuts down a small tree and secures it diagonally against another tree, placing a trap and bait at the end of the tree. There are many martens in this forest, and their tracks are everywhere. This year's lack of snow has prevented hunters from going out, leading to very low fur production and high demand. Currently, high-quality marten fur can sell for $150. In addition to catching martens, Joey has not given up on catching a large gray wolf. He plans to set several single traps for larger prey to earn more money. He constructs a small enclosure with branches, places the bait on the innermost tree, and sets a trap at the entrance. When an animal comes for the bait, it will be caught. Catching large prey not only brings Joey substantial income, but also more respect in town. This time, do you think he will succeed?